committee to order. I'd like to welcome members, staff, and guests to this meeting of the Standing Committee on Private Bills. My name is Angela Pitt, the MLA for Airdrie East and the chair of this committee. I'd ask that members and those joining the committee at the table introduce themselves for the record. To my right. Oh, please introduce yourself.
Justin Wright, MLA for Cypress Medicine. Just
a note that the microphones are operated by Hansard. There's no need to push the button. In fact, please don't touch it.
Nolan Dick for constituency of Grand Prairie, God's country, the real God's country, contrary to what Shane Getson and various other MLAs say.
Eric Bouchard, Calgary Lougheed.
Chelsea Petrovic, MLA for Livingston McLeod.
Jason Steffen, Red Deer South.
Lori Sigurdson, Edmonton Riverview.
Julia Hayter, Calgary Edgemont.
Joe Cece, Calgary Buffalo.
Good evening, everyone. Jasbir Diol, Edmonton Meadows. Thank you.
Bonnie Govindarajan, Parliamentary Council.
Good evening, everyone. Nancy Robert, Clerk of Journals and Committees.
Good evening, Jody Rempel, Committee Clerk.
Do we have any substitution? I don't. You can tell who does committee in this room by those who try and get the button. Honorable members, there's a few housekeeping items before we turn to the business at hand. Please note that the microphones are operated by Hansard. We've discussed this. Committee proceedings are being live streamed on the internet and broadcast on the Alberta Assembly TV. Please set your cell phones and other devices to silent for the duration of the meeting, or fines will ensue. Before proceeding further, as this is the first meeting of this committee of the 31st Legislature, I would like to discuss remote participation in committee meetings. And I would like, as you know, Section 6 of the Legislative Assembly Act permits participation in a committee by means of telephone or other telecommunication facilities that permit all members participating in the meeting to hear each other if all members of the committee consent. Our committee meeting rooms are equipped to facilitate meeting participation by telephone and video conference. If this is something we want to permit, then this committee may wish to pass a motion which needs to be passed unanimously to approve remote participation by members for the duration of a legislature. I would note that such a motion would not preclude committee from determining that in-person attendance at specific meetings is required, and in those cases, a motion would be considered at the end of a particular meeting requesting the attendance in person of members at a subsequent meeting. No members are joining us remotely, so can I have a member move a motion? Do we have it on the screen?
But I can do that.
Can we? Or do you want me just to read it and then someone can still move? Member Stefan, I saw your hand go up. We're going to put the motion on the screen. And if you would be so kind as to read it into the record for me. No, you're okay. We're just waiting for the motion. MLA Stefan?
Well, Chair, this looks exactly like I was going to say. This is amazing. I move that the Standing Committee on Private Bills consent for the purpose of Section 6 of the Legislative Assembly Act to remote participation by any member in the committee's members held at the designated committee meeting rooms in the Queen Elizabeth II building during the 31st legislature, unless the committee carries a motion in advance of a meeting that remote participation of members is not permitted at that meeting, and I so move that, Chair.
Wonderful. Is there any discussion to the motion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is carried. Unanimously. All right, let's move on to the agenda. I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the draft meeting agenda. Would anyone like to propose any amendments? Seeing none, would a member like to move a motion to approve the agenda? So, MLA Petrovic?
To approve the meeting agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. So carried unanimously.
Just the first
You don't
one
care about that
is
one,
just
do you?
no.
All right, committee orientation. Like the other committees of the Assembly, the Standing Committee on Private Bills operates based on duties assigned by statute on instruction from the Assembly contained in specific resolutions, by rules provided in standing orders, or by established practice. The committee is supported in its work by the non-partisan staff of the Legislative Assembly Office, Vani Giovandarajan. No, we'll keep working on that. Parliamentary Council and Jody Rempel, Committee Clerk, are both assigned to support this committee. Of course, there are staff from other Legislative Assembly office branches who support all of our meetings, including Legislative Assembly Security Services, Venue Services, Alberta Hansard, and ITS and Broadcasting, and of course, Nancy Robert. Temporary substitution, Standing Order 56 2.1 to 2.4 outlines the processes for the substitution of chairs, deputy chairs, and committee members. For convenience, substitution notice templates are available on Our House for members to use, or you may draft your own notice. Please note that it is the responsibility of the original committee member to ensure that a substituting member is prepared for the meeting and has all the appropriate materials. Should the original committee member participate in the meeting, then the substitution is no longer in effect. Members who are not committee members or official substitutes may attend and participate in committee meetings. However, they may not vote or move motions. Should the proceedings move in camera, these members would require specific consent of the committee to remain in attendance. If you or your staff have any questions about the substitution process, I would encourage you to follow up with any of the committee clerks. Consideration of private bills. Since this is our first meeting of the 31st Legislature, I would like to invite Mrs. Govindarajan, that's much better, to provide us with an overview of the committee's mandate and processes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm pleased to provide the committee with a brief overview of the private bills process. You will have received the memorandum that I sent to you last week that outlined a lot of what I'm discussing today. So private bills in the process for consideration are unique from public bills and other business that you'll typically deal with in the House and in other committees. Public bills have an application to general application to everyone in the province, whereas private bills provide powers or benefits to specific individuals, corporations, or groups to accommodate an extraordinary situation where no equitable remedy can be found within an existing law, or to provide limited exemptions from the general law. Although a private bill only applies to a specific individual or group, it does become a law like any other law in Alberta and has the same force and effect. It's also important to keep in mind that a private bill is not a private member's bill, which is a public bill that, if enacted, applies to the public at large. So in terms of procedure for members, Chapter 8 of the Standing Order sets out the rules and procedures governing private bills. This committee's role has, in the private bills process, can be summarized as having two main functions. The first one is to review petitions that are received to ensure that the petitioner has complied with the specific requirements in the standing orders, and then to report those findings to the Assembly through the chair. The second function is then to consider the private bill once it has been introduced in the Assembly by its sponsor, and then referred back again to the committee for its recommendation that the bill either proceed, not proceed, or proceed with amendments. That consideration of the committee involves a hearing that is scheduled to hear from the petitioner for the private bill. So as mentioned, private bills are not used to create laws of general application, but they have the same force and effect as law. And this informs the role of the committee when reviewing private bills. So this committee's role involves considering both the interest of the petitioner as well as other affected parties. And you will have noted that one of the requirements of the petitioner is to provide a public notice. So depending on the subject matter or the nature of the bill, the committee may seek advice from government departments. In its review, members should keep in mind that a private bill should not be used to create an inequity or an unfair advantage to a group or individual, or be used if there is another legal remedy to achieve a particular result. So that's a brief overview, Madam Chair, but I'm happy to answer any questions on the process.
Thank you very much, Ms. Govindarajan. Any questions? The Honourable Ms. Segerson.
Just getting down further into the details, when someone does come and presents to the committee, is it a 10-minute presentation or how long is that presentation?
Great question.
I believe it is 10 minutes, but that's something we can confirm. And then committee members would have an opportunity to ask the petitioner questions. And prior to that hearing, the committee members will also receive a report from Parliamentary Council providing an opinion on the bill for your consideration.
So yeah, that'd be great to know how long the presentation can be and also how long it is for the questions. Is that 10 minutes also or 5 minutes or whatever?
That's a good question, actually, and then the procedure for that. Please, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It doesn't say anything in the standing orders, so we're just going to have a look back at the last time that we did this, because we don't do it very often. And we'll, if you don't mind carrying on, and then we'll report back. Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions put in the queue for this process?
Based on the explanation of what a private bill is, and my colleagues' question about, how long things take. Does it usually take a couple meetings then to deal with the private bill as opposed to it all happening in one meeting?
So this has varied, and it is up to the committee. So as I understand it in the past, there have been private bills that have been a hearing for a private bill and deliberations that happen after that meeting. But it has also been the case that after the hearing, committee members determined that they would like more information, and they will defer the deliberations and
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. So, final matter regarding Bill PR1 is scheduling for the hearing with the petitioner and the committee's deliberation on the bill. Given our in-session schedule and all the things that need to come from that, the proposal is November 29th in the evening, 7 p.m. This will give us the opportunity at that time to hear from the petitioner and then have this go back to the House the subsequent week for the stages to move through the House to deal with it in a timely manner. Are there any objections to November 29th at 7 p.m.? It's a Wednesday.
That's the press gallery Christmas party. Idea what the videos are going to be like, but I don't want to miss them.
I know what you mean. The morning of the 29th? Would that be more agreeable? You can't? Are there other? No, we won't. Yes.
I guess, okay, the 29th. My concern is that, this is a short session. We only will.
7th.
Yeah, we're talking about the following week we'll be out. So will this be able to be expedited? Then it'd be nice to be able to have a completion. So if anything, I would advocate for it earlier.
This is probably this is expedited, or I hear you loud and clear, and I have the same goal in mind, most certainly. This is probably, the 29th is probably as early as we can get, so this bill will go to the ministry for recommendation, and they're gonna have a really short turnaround time to be able to bring that back to us, and that will bring us to the 29th, in which we could do deliberations so that it can go back to the House on the Monday for report, which I believe is the 4th. And then we could, and then expedite it through the House sort of 5-6 before the 7th. So really, if we want to make that work, 29 is our only day. And I get the press gallery party, that's gonna put a lot of people in a situation. I suspect it starts at 7. But if we could do the morning, what do we need, like 2 hours? Meet at 10 a.m.? Meet at 10? Well, yeah, we'll have to
I would start earlier in case you need the time.
start at 9. 10 as well. Do you think 2 hours is enough to? Because if it's not, we're gonna end up back here in the evening on the 29th.
That's fine.
I think it's great.
It's not, it's not fine. No,
It's not fine.
No.
It's not fine to come back.
no, we are required by the standing orders to give notice.
Okay. We're gonna propose 9 on the 29th. I know, I'm with you. I don't like it either. Can we agree enough and then figure out a path to get everybody there? 9:30, jeez. Okay, November 29th at 9 a.m.
I think Bonnie has a few remarks.
Yes. Sorry, it's just in. Oh, okay, perfect. Do you want to look at the calendar?
Go ahead.
Sorry, so just to take, I know we're talking about setting a hearing date, but as I mentioned, part of the role of the committee is to have consensus that the petitioners fulfill the requirements under the standing orders. So just to review those, the documents that are required for a petition for a private bill are set out in Standing Order 94. So they must include 2 letters of petition, one addressed to the Lieutenant Governor and one to the Assembly, a statutory declaration confirming that they provided public notice in a daily newspaper in Alberta once a week for 2 consecutive weeks, a check in the amount of $500, a name of the member who's agreed to sponsor the bill, and 2 copies of the draft private bill in the appropriate format. And those were to have all been submitted to the Clerk of the Assembly this year by November 14th. So that petition that was received was for St. Joseph's College Amendment Act, and that was submitted by Dr. Sean Flynn on behalf of St. Joseph's College. And I can confirm for the committee members that the petitioner submitted those letters of petition, a statutory declaration confirming that they advertised a notice that describes the legislative amendment in both the Edmonton Journal and the Calgary Herald once a week for 2 weeks in October, a money order in the amount of $500 and a draft proposed bill. And the petitioner also advised that Ms. Sigurdsson has agreed to be the sponsor of this bill. So as such, it is my opinion that the petitioner has fulfilled the requirements under the standing orders. And I know copies of the petitions were posted, and I have the originals if any member wishes to see it, but or if you have any questions about that. That was the only.
I've been informed that the petitioner has 10 minutes to present, and then questions will ensue. So I'm of the opinion that a 10 a.m. start would probably suffice just fine.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So do we, does the petitioner provide us with feedback on what their announcements in the newspapers garnered, if any response?
So the notice and does include the contact information for the Office of Parliamentary Counsel. So if if there were any responses, they would have approached our office, and anything that we would receive would be noted for the committee.
Went to your office, didn't go to the petitioner?
So their notice has to include our contact information.
Okay. And did you, well, we're not into the business yet, but I'll ask you when we get there.
There's no other
Okay.
question.
Any other questions?
Need a motion?
Not yet. So the petition seems to be in compliance with Standing Orders 90 to 94. It says, do members have any questions they wish to raise? With that settled in accordance,
Is this the time? Did you get any response to the petitions? Or the
Yeah,
notices?
so that would inform kind of your deliberation about the whether or not it proceeds or not proceeds, but I could advise that we did not receive anything to date.
All right. Sorry.
do you have any more? No, that's okay. We're here for questions now. Okay, with that settled, in accordance with Standing Order 99-1, I will provide an oral report to the Assembly tomorrow regarding our review of the petition, following which the process for introducing Bill PR1 may begin. Now to the schedule, November 29, 10 a.m.
You weren't listening.
Do we like, we'll sort some stuff out on. I like 10, 10 seems to be, I think we could probably sort that out then. Okay, so with that, I will seek for a mover of the motion. Go ahead. Honorable Minister, Member Cece.
Sure. That the Standing Committee on Private Bills meet to hear the petitioner for Bill PR1 hold deliberations November 29, 2023 at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. That is carried. Are there any other items for discussion under other business? Seeing none. Oh, yep.
So the committee has, so this is probably likely the only meeting that we're going to have besides this one is on the 29th.
Yes. Well, depending on how the 29th goes, yeah.
Right, okay, going.
Yeah.
But there was no other petitions that were received or? Nothing, okay. Just
Not
wanted-
for this,
Not for private.
not for, yeah,
The deadline's passed.
the deadline is passed. Perfect.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We're that efficient. That's 2 meetings and done. Well, maybe. Okay, so the next meeting date is November 29th at 10 a.m. And would a member like to move a motion to adjourn? Yeah. That's the favorite one. There we go. Malay Petrovic. Let's move to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. So carried. Meeting is adjourned till November 29th at 10 a.m.
You are so close.